Good evening, everyone.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It being 7:01 and a quorum of the planning board present, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being held both in person and via remote participation. Members of the public who wish to participate remotely may do so by using the Zoom link application available on the town website. We are going to start this evening with our administrative notes. We have minutes from May 13th of 2026. Any questions, comments, changes from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the minutes.
I have a motion to accept the minutes for May 13th. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? It is unanimous. Next, we're going to move on to a presentation from our consultants regarding the industrial area evaluation. I'll turn that over to staff. Mr. Silvera?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have Tim Zerwinski here from Beals Associates to present on behalf of this industrial zoning study.
Good evening. Okay, we have a...
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
All right, wonderful. Mr. Chair, members of the planning board, thank you very much for having me. My name is Tim Zerwinski. I am the Director of Land Planning at Beals Associates. We are a civil engineering and planning firm based in Boston. And we were asked by the planning department to do this small study and evaluation of the town's two main industrial areas. The thought being, what are the opportunities for growth, expansion, redevelopment, within those areas. So I'm going to start up a presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. It says you're going to have to enable screen sharing.
Bear with me just a moment, please.
Okay.
Should be enabled now.
I'm still getting a note that it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay.
It never gets easier with these hybrid meetings. While we're sorting this out, just kind of by way of introduction, Beals Associates, the firm that I work for, like I said, we're a civil engineering, site planning, permitting, run the kind of full service of site evaluation up to construction administration for kind of the civil engineering component of all manner of projects, including major industrial projects. Personally, I come from the municipal planning world. I spent 10 years in municipal planning, most recently as the Director of Planning and Community Development for the town of Milton. And so this is the type of project that we really like doing because it kind of marries the core competencies that we have in terms of an understanding of municipal planning, zoning, municipal kind of land use regulation, with kind of the practitioner's perspective on what does it take to actually get these things built and out of the ground. And so we enjoyed this project. We kind of relished the opportunity. I'm going to give the share. There we go. Let me see if I can do this. And then we'll just, can everyone kind of see that pretty good?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. So again, the project overview, we had two goals. as we understand it, in all the conversations we had with the town stakeholders that we talked with, the industrial areas are doing good. There's not a huge problem with vacancy. They're kind of humming along, but are there opportunities to help existing businesses grow, or existing businesses kind of do the things that they want to do, but maybe there's some type of regulation that's either preventing them or making it more difficult. And then kind of looking further into the future, are there industries, are there types of businesses that maybe the town wants to bring in, but are being prevented either by, again, zoning regulations or infrastructure kind of limitations, or kind of other things like that. So we've got a kind of very present-focused perspective and then a kind of future-focused perspective. We had many conversations with town staff, town officials, folks from the Plymouth Foundation. We did a site visit with the town staff. We reviewed the land use regulations in Plymouth, as well as the new comprehensive plan. We reviewed best practices for industrial planning and industrial zoning throughout the region, and kind of called upon our own experience in kind of designing and permitting industrial projects throughout the region. And then came up with a summary report that included 15 recommendations that are all mostly zoning based. And then we kind of touch on some other things that are less land use regulation, but still maybe worth pursuing. And so I'm going to do kind of a race through all of these recommendations that we made. And then obviously if we want to kind of hone in on any of them after the presentation, happy to do that. But it's going to be breakneck, hopefully, because I don't want to take up too much of your time. We make a number of dimensional recommendations. The zoning bylaw has a light industrial building height overlay, which sits on top of the Plymouth Industrial Park, which is one of the two main industrial areas that we took a look at. It enables taller buildings, but it has setback requirements that we believe are really take almost every parcel in the district out of contention for taking advantage of the taller building heights that are available under the building height overlay. You can go through a special permit process, but the special permit process has, in addition to the normal, standard special permit process that the bylaw has, there are additional, what we feel are kind of too stringent requirements. We have found that industrial properties, you think of them as kind of low-slung, single, maybe two-story buildings. There are a lot of industrial uses that kind of demand taller heights. And so we're not talking about, 150, 200 feet industrial buildings, but it's the type of thing where if you've got a 14-foot floor-to-ceiling requirement for the first floor of a commercial space, that requirement is even taller for industrial space, to the point that with a 35-foot height limit, which is kind of blanket throughout the town, you're really leaving a lot of developable space on the table because you can't get that second story. And so what we recommend is, because the town already has this building height overlay district, let's kind of open that up a little bit more in a way that, potentially more parcels could take advantage of it. A second recommendation would be to expand the building height overlay district to the Camelot Industrial Park, which is the second main industrial area that we study. We understand that that park is not currently served by town sewer, but there are plans, aspirations, grant applications kind of in the offing to develop and to connect that area to town sewer. So that may be something that the town may want to hold back on until the infrastructure is there. But, for the same reason why we think that slightly taller building heights are appropriate in the Plymouth Industrial Park, we also think they're appropriate in the Camelot Park. Number three, the comprehensive plan makes a recommendation. It's a really simple one, but we think it's a kind of a really, could be really impactful, is to basically take away if there are rooftop mechanicals, so your kind of your air chillers, your HVAC systems, your electrical transformers that can they can go on the ground or they can go on the roof. If you locate them on the roof, currently there's no, the zoning counts that as building height. Which, you need that stuff obviously to run your building, but that's not leasable space that is kind of contributing to the bottom line of an industrial building. And so the comprehensive plan recommends that the town kind of set up a provision whereby those mechanicals don't count against building height. We think it's a great idea. It would incentivize folks to place those mechanical systems on the roof. It enables more creative site planning. It protects that stuff from flooding and other kind of climate change impacts. We think it's a good idea. And finally, eliminating FAR requirements in the light industrial district. FAR is floor area ratio. It's effectively the ratio of the parcel size to the built kind of floor area. It's a dimensional control, but when you stack it on top of all of the other dimensional controls, height, setback, building coverage, lot width, lot size, it creates, it's kind of like a race to the finish line of which dimensional control are you going to hit first? Is it going to be height? Is it going to be building coverage? A lot of times, if you hit the FAR first, you may be able to build a taller building on that site under zoning, but you can't because you hit the FAR. It's duplicative and a little bit of a redundant dimensional control when you've got all these other dimensional controls that are kind of controlling for density and height, setbacks, and all of that. So we think that eliminating the FAR requirements, you still have building height, you still have setbacks, you still have all of this, but it would kind of loosen things up and kind of take away unnecessary and duplicative dimensional control. We make a number of recommendations regarding uses. So those are dimensions, and then we've got kind of land use. The first recommendation here is to add specific desired uses to the use table. I think our count was there are 19 named industrial land uses that are either allowed by right or by special permit in the light industrial zones. There are a couple of other commercial uses that are also kind of buildable in the industrial zones. There's no real rule of thumb as to what's the right number of land uses to put in your use table. There's an argument to be made that having just a handful, keeps things simple, gives the planning board, the building commissioner, whoever is issuing permits, a lot of discretion to interpret, is this light industrial, is it heavy industrial? There could be benefits to that. There are drawbacks, though, because it puts, again, a lot of discretion on these permit granting authorities, which they may not really want that discretion. Maybe they just want things to be simple. We see zoning as a signal to the development community. This is a kind of statement of the town's vision for its built environment. And so if the town wants blue economy uses, seafood processing, boat building, if the town wants advanced manufacturing, scientific research, laboratory, those should be uses that are named in the use table. We see this quite frequently working on behalf of either property owners or property developers that are looking to different towns and they're looking at a site. And one of the first things that we do is we look at the use table. And if we've got a developer of laboratory and we look and we see the laboratory is in a named use, we may move on to the next town, even though there could be an interpretation of some other use in your use table whereby laboratory would be allowed. When you've got developers that are just, they're looking for sites, and so it's something where changing use table isn't necessarily going to kind of open the floodgates for a certain type of development, but it's going to prevent you from being filtered out in that kind of very initial stage of, looking for sites, looking for towns to develop in. Our next recommendation, number 6, is to allow supportive uses by right with conditions. When we say supportive uses, we mean things like restaurants, barbershops, nail salons, gyms, places where, you're in an industrial zone, you're going to work, and you want to get something to eat for lunch, or you want to go to the gym before you head to work. We talk a lot about mixed-use walkable districts, but we think about them in terms of kind of, village downtowns and transit-oriented areas. The industrial areas can be mixed use in that regard. Serving a daytime population that, again, wants to go to lunch, wants to drop off their kids at daycare or things like that. Now, we say with conditions because we don't want the industrial areas to become just any other commercial district. These are kind of specialized land use categories. And so we recommend certain square footage thresholds where any particular site can't exceed a certain amount of square footage of these supportive uses. We think they do have value, and we think that businesses want to have these things on their sites. Number 7 is to allow mixed use in the light industrial zone with conditions. And when we say mixed use here, we mean kind of industrial on the ground floor, office, laboratory, research on the upper floors. What you're seeing here is a rendering of a building. We're not recommending anything this tall, so I don't want to alarm anyone. This is in the city of Boston. The city of Boston just recently revamped their industrial zoning. This is in the Newmarket industrial area. And this is an example of a recently permitted project that is an industrial mixed-use project. So those first 2 floors have the high floor-to-ceiling big floor plans that you would expect to see in an industrial land use. And those upper floors are office, research, other uses, not residential. We don't want to have mixed industrial or residential buildings. But we do think that, combined with those, potentially increased height allowances, these are land uses that want to co-locate together and provide a level of flexibility to to a development that I think would be very valuable. A few more use changes. We talked about supportive uses. There's another use, commercial recreation, climbing gyms, batting cages, archery ranges. If you've been to a kid's birthday party, sometimes there'll be, a big bounce house, birthday party in a former industrial area. These can be good interim uses if, there's a vacancy in an industrial building. But if you're really trying to foster those industrial land uses, just the same as you don't want it to be just any other commercial district, you don't want to have too many of these uses that really do need the big floor plates and the big floor-to-ceiling heights. You don't want to be overrun with these. So we recommend just subjecting those to a special permit process, just to give them that added level of scrutiny to make sure that, if you're really coming in terms of attracting industrial users, you want to have space available, and you don't want to have kind of a non-industrial use taking up that valuable space. Number 9, the atmosphere around this issue, I think, is very tense, but it's worth thinking about regulating data centers. These are, obviously controversial, but it's a necessary part of our kind of information infrastructure. And, the alternative to not regulating it is, you make an application, we talked about kind of specifying what your use table says. You may get a landowner that thinks like, hey, this counts as, light industrial, I should be able to build this. And then you've got, a high profile argument about data centers in your town. Town of Mansfield recently passed zoning that we like quite a bit. It bans the huge hyperscale data centers. It puts performance standards on electricity use, water use. Has all sorts of protections. We think it's very responsible. It's something that the town, should at least take some thought to do. One thing the towns will do is, City of Lowell just did this recently, passed a moratorium on considering data center permits to give them the time to develop the regulations. So again, the town can go in whatever direction it feels it needs to go in. I know that this is becoming not just a local, regional, it's a national issue, but all the more reason to give it some critical thought. Number 10 is to adopt the BESS model bylaw. BESS is battery energy storage systems. That's the photo that you're looking at. Those are kind of shipping container type things. They've got batteries in them. This is the way that we really are going to harness renewable energy. The sun shines all day. You put it into a battery. You use that energy on a cloudy day, which is in the picture that you're looking at. The Commonwealth recently promulgated regulations for clean energy siting, including battery energy storage systems, and they put out a model bylaw that, again, we think is very responsible. It's based on best practice. It's based on conversations with communities and users in the Commonwealth and beyond the Commonwealth. And, we think it can really help, especially industrial users who, if you can't depend entirely on the grid for your electricity, especially if you're in advanced manufacturing use, you want to be able to have that battery energy storage on site. And what we're recommending is battery energy storage as an accessory use, not as a utility scale use. So you can have, a big field of BESS systems that, have multiple hundreds of megawatt storage. That's not what we're recommending. We're recommending it as an accessory use for kind of individual users, individual buildings, individual parcels. And there are plenty of resources that the Commonwealth has. They want towns to be doing this. We have a couple recommendations regarding the zoning map. Nothing too major, but it is kind of in the service of kind of cleaning up the district lines and kind of acknowledging where maybe there's been some leakage of industrial uses, or maybe there's a commercial area where the uses are not kind of like the others. Two of these are near the Camelot Industrial Park. These are land use maps from the Commonwealth's GIS system. Purple is industrial land use. So Holman Road and Natalie Way, these are two kind of cul-de-sac roads off of Long Pond Road. And then 74 to 88 Camelot Drive is two kind of, I think it's a lot of auto body uses in these two warehouses in these purple areas you see on the map. The reason why you would do this is, if you've got industrial land uses, if you've got commercial uses that lean towards industrial, you want to apply those same use limitations, use allowances, dimensional limitations, dimensional allowances that you would do for other industrial uses. If you're under commercial zoning, it treats those uses differently than the industrial zoning. So there's an opportunity to just kind of make some shifts in the lines of the light industrial district there. One of the conversations we had talked about the industrial areas. We kind of think of them. We approach this, and this is why it's so important to talk to everybody and to kind of keep an open mind on things, because it was a great conversation. We think of industrial areas. It's like an old growth forest. If you cut it down, those trees are not growing back the same way. You see towns and cities a lot will develop other uses in their industrial zones, and they're not zoning other places for industrial. That industrial land use just goes away. We had this conversation, and one of the officials we spoke with basically said, well, we don't want to cut down the literal growth forest either. And in saying that, it's like looking at the industrial areas, not just as industrial zones, but as places where it's appropriate to do development compared to the woods or a cranberry bog or any of the other kind of really sensitive and treasured kind of natural areas in the town of Plymouth. And there's validity to that. It's a really strong planning principle to do infill development, to do redevelopment where you already have pervious area and infrastructure and roadway networks, so that you're not doing, land clearance and clearing out trees and everything. And all of that is to say, if the town is interested in this, there are areas kind of on the outskirts of these industrial zones where it could be appropriate to do a multifamily overlay. You don't want to do multifamily housing right in the middle of your industrial area. You don't want to kind of fracture the coherence of that zone. You don't want to be next door to factory, if you're living in a multifamily building. These are areas, the top is kind of the Resnick Road area, the bottom is kind of the southern portion of the Camelot Industrial Park, kind of across from the middle school. These are areas where the uses right now are not predominantly industrial. There are a lot of civic, educational, healthcare uses. And they're kind of on the outside of the area. So, the town has housing goals. The region, the Commonwealth has a housing crisis, frankly. One of the things that limits the industrial areas is the inability for people to be able to afford to live in town. You can't attract talent that way. And so, it's legit to talk about, do we want to expand our multifamily housing options? It's a crossroads. Like I said, if you rezone that industrial land, the likelihood is you're not going to zone other land to be industrial. So that kind of goes away. So it is a trade-off. It is a fork in the road. But we talk about trade-offs in land use all the time. This could be one. And I think it's an important decision. But you're weighing important decisions every day. So this could be something that the town could decide to go along with. We have a couple of procedural recommendations, and these both kind of stem from the comprehensive plan. We didn't want to. We started this project before the comp plan got approved. Once it got approved, we took a good look at it, and we were glad to see that we were recommending a lot of things that the comp plan is also contemplating. Number 14, exempting certain industrial zone projects from site plan review. The site plan review procedures are very open-ended. It really kind of depends on, the request of the building commissioner to get a referral, from the planning board to look at something. It's not necessarily inappropriate for all projects, but one of the things that we're always concerned with is if you've got a buy-right zoning process, is it predictable? Is it certain? Does it give the people who are going to be making investments into the industrial areas the confidence that, we can do this without being held up with, procedures, requirements that are not kind of known up front? So we always try to lean towards these strong, objective, dimensional performance standards, as opposed to kind of discretionary processes. Site plan review kind of walks a tightrope between those two types of processes. But we do think that you see more redevelopment of industrial sites if there was a kind of a clearer, more straightforward, buy-right procedure. And then finally, and I don't know if irony is the right word. I know you've got reappointments to the village steering committees later on the agenda. One of the other recommendations in the comp plan that we concurred with was to remove steering committee review requirements for projects in the industrial areas. One of the issues is these requirements are not clearly codified in zoning. So again, it kind of goes back to, do we have processes and review procedures that everyone kind of understands going in and are known to everybody and can be predicted and kind of counted upon? The other aspect is and we look through the village master plans. Camelot is in the Plymouth Center Village, and then Plymouth Industrial Park, I think, is in North Plymouth. I could be wrong there, but they're both in the study areas for these steering committees. All that said, the steering committee, the village master plans are really kind of focused on those village downtown areas in a way that the industrial areas have different concerns that are kind of less aesthetic, less historical, less environmental. That we kind of think that the steering committee, their review is probably best left elsewhere. If only because, again, those plans are kind of don't provide a ton of guidance for the industrial areas compared to some of the other areas that the steering committee, reviews kind of, laid out in those master plans. And so finally, we have just a handful of other recommendations that are not based in land use, but we think, are worth, maybe it's not the planning board, maybe it's other kind of aspects of either town government or, nonprofit civic kind of groups. Continue to pursue sewer expansion to the Campbell Industrial Park. This would unlock a ton of potential in that area. You all are pursuing it already, so you know how important it is. Just keep your foot on the gas there. Advocate to Eversource for increased electrical capacity and upgrades. This is a tough one, because and we see this quite a bit where, the town has a lot more control over water and sewer infrastructure compared to electrical infrastructure. But any opportunity you have to have a conversation with Eversource to let them know, like, these are our plans, we want to be redeveloping in our industrial areas, and there's going to be a need for increased capacity. We've seen plans, kind of go up in smoke once a developer kind of calls up Eversource and they're like, we just don't have the juice, to support this project. So, not a ton that the town can do, except to, continue to press for those things and to support them when they come up. Marketing Plymouth to the Boston-based startup community. There's an argument to be made that Plymouth is too far away from MIT and Harvard and BU and everything to kind of attract that type of startup business. The other argument is, and I can tell you from close personal experience, it's expensive up here. And when you've got a business that's just trying to start up, they need to build prototypes, they need space. I don't think Plymouth is a stretch. And so, this involves communication with the real estate community on both ends, both in Plymouth and in the greater Boston area. This could be something for the Plymouth Foundation, for the Chamber of Commerce. But, there's, to the extent that there's space in Plymouth, it's cheaper than anything you're going to find in Cambridge, and that could be attractive. And then finally, connecting current and prospective business owners to regional university academic programs. Bridgewater State, the community colleges, UMass Dartmouth. These places all have programs that are, skewing out young people who have great ideas. They want to work. They want to, apply, what they've learned in engineering, and science, and computer science, and all these other fields. There's synergies to be had there, and to the extent that it's within the town's capacity to pursue those, we think it could be fruitful, for some of the businesses. So, that I probably talk really fast, which I apologize for, but you can take your time reading the report, and, happy to answer any questions or follow up on any issues that you might have questions about. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we can bring the presentation up at any point.
Thank you. That was very helpful. We do have the report, and obviously we're going to spend a lot more time digging through not only the recommendations, but the basis that you put forth in those recommendations. But certainly willing to open it up to members of the board if people have questions at this point, or obviously whether or not we may ask you to come Zoom back in for another meeting at some point to address that after we've had more time to truly digest some of the thoughts. So let me open it up. Any members of the board, just raise your hand if you have questions at this point. Mr. Mand.
Yeah, I had reviewed the plan ahead of time, and we had it for the last, I guess, couple of weeks. So I kind of reviewed it and made some comments, and if you don't mind, I'll address it here. I'll try to be as brief as possible, though it's a couple pages long. First and foremost, to me, the process of amending zoning regulations to expand commercial areas and uses, which would affect the entire community, needs to be, to the greatest degree possible, an inclusive one. In the preamble to the body of the report, the statement is made that the analysis offered is based on conversations with officials and staff from the Planning and Development Department, the Inspectional Service Department, the Planning Board, and the Plymouth Foundation. But I would note that this list of conversations does not include any between the consultant or the town with residents, specifically on this report. And speaking for myself as an elected member of the Planning Board, I can say that I was never part of any in-depth discussions on these issues. I would hope, therefore, that this meeting is considered the starting point of this evaluation process, and that more in-depth discussions that include the public as a full partner take place before any of the recommendations that the IER, as I refer to it, offers are considered, any regulations are changed, any new uses are permitted. I'm not prejudging this process. In fact, I find many of the arguments for changes in our regulations made by Beals convincing, most notably in the discussion of the benefits of changing height restrictions with specific areas in hopefully our 2 industrial parks and maybe additional areas. But I believe that whatever arguments are made in this report, they can only be improved by a full and public review of the pros and cons of these proposed changes. Now I'll briefly address some of the report's recommendations, not all of them. The first and second with the LIBHOD, which I had a lot of people sending me letters saying, what exactly is a LIBHOD, the Light Industrial Building Overlay District? Both the Plymouth Industrial Park and the Camelot Industrial Park abut large areas of green space, and to this point, little consideration has been given to how they should fit into the character of the community, the neighborhood, or enhance nearby residential developments, or provide pathways through and to the town's environmental assets. So as we seek to address the commercial and industrial deficiencies of these parks, we should commit to a similar adjustment as to what is required of the businesses located in these areas in terms of sustainability, resilience, stormwater recharge, and the preservation of natural resources, all of which were a high priority in our new comprehensive plan. I agree completely that it's low-hanging fruit that the mechanical systems being able to be on the roofs and shielded, hopefully, is a good idea, very easy, as I said, low-hanging fruit. As far as the FAR requirements in the light industrial district, I certainly understand the argument for eliminating FAR. I would just like to see a graphic representation of what that would mean in specific terms, maybe examples of that. I'm particularly interested in the adding of specific desired uses to the table. The specific desired uses that this document says town officials want to be added to our use table include a wish list of businesses associated with high-paying professional pursuits such as healthcare, biomedical, lab research, etc. Only the blue economy use, though, which is included, has, I believe, a long-standing historic foundation in this community. I think conspicuously absent from this list are uses focused on alternative energy and/or green technology, which I think is relevant because Plymouth is the heart of a globally rare ecoregion and boasts a wealth of green resources, and is already the headquarters of the world's preeminent shorebird conservation organization, the headquarters of the state's largest land trust, and contains a state park, a state forest, Mass Audubon's wildlife sanctuary as well. So absent the green energy research, for example, such as next generation solar cells or green hydrogen and energy transition materials, seems to miss out on expertise and intellectual expertise that we already have resident in our community. And particularly, I would note that these types of businesses received over $2 trillion in investments in 2025. So I think that that's something we should pursue because it's in our wheelhouse. We have a lot of interest in it. We have a community that has a lot of concern and benefits from our natural resources. As far as the, data centers, I was glad to hear you say that one of our options should be a moratorium. I definitely am in favor. I think this is such a potentially negative effect considering how important our sole source aquifer is and electrical use and things like that. Its potential effect on our drinking water, our sensitive environmental resources, that we really need to have the best of all possible data center regulations. And I would think it would be sensible to have a year-long moratorium in which we endeavor to create that. And you cited some good examples. I think it was Mansfield as well. We could work toward that. The same kind of concern I hold for the BESS model bylaw, the battery energy storage systems. I think we need to modify the state's model bylaw to, again, be specific to this community and our special resources, our special unique status, perhaps having better setbacks and buffers than the state is offering, alternative siding requirements, et cetera. I guess that's it. I'll leave it at that, but thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mand. Anyone else? Mr. Grandy?
Yes, during the study process, some would ask the question, are both industrial parks currently at full build-out? Anybody answer that?
So we did not do a build-out analysis. There had been a study done by Old Colony Planning Council. I forget what year it was, relatively recently, that there is some capacity for expansion in both parks. And I think that, if you make the dimensional changes, whether it's all of them or some of them, building height especially, that increases the potential for build out. So even if you've got something, where the footprint and the height is kind of where it's supposed to be or where it's at right now, there's the potential for expanding that. So it's not necessarily there's vacant parcels or there's empty land. There's land that would be with zoning changes underutilized, and so that's kind of where a potential for expansion could come.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, all these items, all 15, will require a deal of discussion, obviously, through the process. Some things I like more than others as far as this is concerned. I'm not too sure putting in retail, restaurants and stores, and et cetera, within the industrial parks, and it should be limited. So there should be a very well-rounded discussion as far as that's concerned. Because when you make changes to zoning in an overlay or any area whatsoever, it affects other areas of the community as well. So we really need to be careful as far as what we do in these industrial zones. A lot of work has been done in the past by past planning boards and planning directors through this process. I do want to see the process streamlined. That includes not just in the industrial parks across the entire town. We need to get people to invest in, companies to invest in this community. And changes that we can make within these industrial parks to create that is something we need to do. But we have to do it carefully and properly through the process. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Grandy. Anyone else? Mr. Donaldson?
Just had a question in regards to your recommendation about multifamily residents around the industrial area. Did you have, or did you look into like what types of multifamily that would be more suitable? Do you have any data or anything that would support more of a decision on that we can make in regards to how well multifamilies are interact with an industrial area? I didn't mute you, so you're.
Sorry about that. I coughed earlier. I was trying to be polite and I muted myself and then I couldn't unmute. Apologies for that. Our analysis would admittedly kind of very, very surface level, because I think, and this I think kind of goes to some of the previous comments. We see this, and I think, talking with the town staff when we were commissioned, this is this. I hesitate to call it a start of a conversation. It's the starter for a conversation. And so a lot of these recommendations, again, are meant to be expanded upon procedurally, through more research, through through additional analysis. So to that end, what we looked at was, if the town were to want to do a multifamily overlay, and when we talk about a multifamily overlay, again, we're not talking kind of downtown Boston skyscrapers. We're talking the style of multifamily that Plymouth has. Where are those areas where, from a kind of really broad physical and land use perspective, are those going to be kind of least conflicting with other surrounding land uses? And so that's why, when we look at Resnick Road, which, is part of the industrial park, is a little bit of a loop, again, on the outskirts, closer to more commercial amenities, less industrial uses. The current uses, again, are kind of less industrial, despite them being in the industrial zone. Similar for the Long Pond Road area down there, where it's kind of the gateway into that industrial area. And so, in terms of kind of a parcel by parcel analysis of physical conditions, in terms of architectural or like urban design analysis, we didn't do that. That is a next step. Obviously, there are plenty of design guideline documents that the town has, and goals in other plans, including the comp plan, that you would want to inform that conversation. But for the most part, it's kind of very broad, surface level kind of initiation to the discussion.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. I want to thank you for the presentation. I want to thank you for the report. Obviously, the recommendations that are contained therein, all of which would require extensive discussion within the community, in part because most of them require bylaw or zoning changes, things that we have to go through in a large process, ultimately ending with a town meeting vote. So none of these things can be done overnight. None of these things can be done without discussion, and they should be done with all due consideration. And I think it's important as we talk about some of the challenges that we face and the offsets that we need to make in terms of what we need to do to grow our commercial base, to expand the tax revenues coming from non-residential sources. Something that was also very heavily mentioned in our comprehensive plan. And our comprehensive plan really does talk about balancing all of these things. And that's the challenge that we as a board face and we as a community face, is how do we balance our desire to preserve a lot of our character, our charm, our history, our open space, while at the same time recognizing that it's costing all of us more every year to stay here. And how do we offset that? How do we protect the people who have been here for so long or who want to come here and are unable to do so? So this certainly gives us a start for some discussion on some ideas that will at least hopefully chip away at that challenge that we face. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll be able to speak with you again, maybe as we have more specific questions and some more public input on some of the ideas and the ones that the planning board wishes to take on as its first challenges. So thank you again. Appreciate all of your hard work and your presentation this evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the board members for the attention that you gave to this. These were great questions and great points. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My wife grew up in Plymouth. I'm a huge fan of the town. Always love to spend my time down there. So thanks again. Have a great night, and good luck, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Thank you again. Appreciate it. Next on our agenda this evening, we're going to go into our annual appointments run. We have an appointments policy that's published here for the planning board. We're going to follow that. So what we're going to do for everyone is we're going to ask if they wish to come up and speak, or if you're on Zoom to come speak. You don't have to, but we'll give you 2 minutes to just give a brief overview, typically who you are and why you want to do this. And then we'll open it up to questions from the board. The order in which people are called up, while maybe it's in alphabetical order on our agenda, we use a random number generator so that nobody is called up under any preconceived ideas. It's all completely random. And we use a computer to do it, so there's no fiddling or fudging of that. And we will start with our own planning board associate member. We had Ms. Bosanquet and Mr. Smith. Ms. Bosanquet has withdrawn her application only because she really wanted to focus on the master plan committee and not on the associate member position. So, Mr. Smith, do you wish to say anything to this board?
Yes, I'd be glad to.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. My name is Christopher Smith, and I live at 55 Viridian in District 15. My wife and I have made Plymouth our home almost 5 years ago after moving from New Jersey. I'm honored to have been selected and served as an alternate member of the Planning Board this past year. I am retired and bring 45 years of professional experience to the board. I'm looking for your support to continue to provide an architect's and manager's perspective to projects that come before the board. And I'm excited to continue to develop initiatives for improvements to the board's processes and zoning revisions, all in support of the new comprehensive plan and the people of Plymouth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any questions from members of the board?
I'd just like to say that I really appreciate Mr. Smith's attentiveness to detail, and an associate member is by definition not a full member, but Mr. Smith gives a full measure of his interest and attention to all of the articles and is always ready to comment substantively on each issue, and I very much appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mand. Anyone else? Mr. Grandy?
Motion to support Mr. Smith as the planning board associate member.
Okay, so following our procedures, we have a nomination. Do we have a second for the nomination?
Second?
Okay. Now, having received the nomination and a second, we will have a vote for Mr. Smith. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Mr. Smith, you have been reappointed for another year. We do thank you for your service this past year and look forward to another year of working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this point, we are short one full member this evening, so I will ask if there are any objections to having Mr. Smith participate in the remaining appointments.
No objections.
No issue.
Seeing none, Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask you to participate in the remaining appointments this evening in any capacity, whether you wish to ask questions and certainly to vote. Next up this evening, we have the Land Use and Acquisition Committee. There is one 3-year term and one 2-year term available for that committee. First up, we have Ms. Davis.
Good evening, Chair and Committee. I'm not going to talk very long because I've sent you all my information. And why I would like a reappointment to it is it's, first of all, it's a fascinating committee to be on. It's really interesting. But I owned Chapter 61 property for 30 years in Kingston, and for years went to meetings, worked with the forester. So I have a really thorough understanding of what that entails as far as forestry. I did send you my resume. I won't go through that. But I think with my job, which was a school nurse or a nurse who is your skills of communication, and then as a retiree, I have been president of a historic society, had to work on boards. I'm on the league board now. So a lot of my skills, I think, are listening, which I could work on more than talking, and helping people come to decisions. I've been a town meeting member, since 2010 and back in the 1980s. So, do you have some questions for me?
Any questions from members of the board?
I'd simply like to ask, put her on the spot, say, Ginny, describe in 60 seconds or less what LUAC is.
Oh, LUAC, Land Use and Acquisition. So it has to do with, right now, although our job has expanded, we look at all of the land that comes out of Chapter 61. That means land that has been put, they have to pay less taxes. It's an agreement with the town. And it can cover recreation or forestry or farming. And you can have a minimal of 10 acres behind your house that's woods that you want to put under it, or it can be, hundreds of acres. When that land comes out of Chapter 61, it comes before the town and the select board. It also, they send out notices to many, many departments, almost all of the departments in the town, and including our committee, and we all look at it and say, how is the best use of this? But an important factor is the town has a right of first refusal. And if any of you have been watching the select board meetings, you saw all the discussions, controversies around the landers' land down in Centerville. And that was a great example to just listen to how complex it can be and how many different opinions there are and different ways of looking at things. So ask me more questions if that doesn't seem clear. There also is a wonderful booklet that is put out by the state. It's called Chapter Lands. It is wonderful. Anyone can get it. I think they may have a few copies here. I have some copies, but you can get it from the state. And it really answers all your questions. We often refer to it. When we're there, we go, oh.
Thank you.
So, thank you. And I don't care whether I get 2 or 3 years, whatever. you
Okay.
decide.
Okay. Mr. Howard?
Good evening. Bruce Howard. I live at 735 Long Pond Road in Precinct 16, where I'm a town meeting member. I've been aware I wanted to state up front that I'd be pleased to accept either the 2 or the 3-year appointment. I've been aware of the LUAC committee for a number of years, but it was only recently that I started attending LUAC meetings when they began discussing the Landers Farm Road property. I had a real interest in that. So I've seen what the current committee does when they're in action, and from my perspective, they seem to be performing quite well. My wife and I have been in Plymouth for nearly 10 years, and during that time, I have reviewed and evaluated property proposals as a member of the Conservation Commission, the Advisory and Finance Committee, and as a town member. So I'm familiar with proposals submitted to the town and how the town addresses them. It's complicated work and preparation is key. So I make a point to be prepared for any meetings which I plan to attend. I read the materials provided, I study the maps and plans, and when possible, I visit the sites. And I ask good questions. So in my experience, not too many people can ask the tough questions. I can. I'm excited, as Jenny described, that LUAC is actually going to be evolving in their role. And I have experience working with business processes as well as town committee rules and regulations. So I feel that I'm quite skilled in looking at procedures and would be an asset in working that with the LUAC committee. In summary, I have skills and experience. I come prepared to do the work and ask the tough questions. And I look forward to working with the LUAC committee as it addresses the challenges and opportunities in its changing role. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions from members of the board? Thank you very much. So at this time, for each candidate, I'm going to call for a nomination and a second. And if you're going to make the nomination, I'm going to ask that you make a nomination for either the 2-year term or the 3-year term. Mr. Grandy,
I'd like to nominate Ms. Davis for the 3-year term.
do I have a second for that?
Second?
I have a nomination and a second for the 3-year term. Do I have a nomination for Mr. Howard for the 2-year term?
I nominate Mr. Howard for the 2-year term.
I have a nomination. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Okay, at this point, I will call for a vote first for Ms. Davis for the 3-year term. All in favor? And for Mr. Howard for the 2-year term, all in favor? Thank you both. Thank you, Ginny, for reapplying. Thank you, Bruce, for applying for the first time. I think you sold yourself short as far as your analysis of properties, given what you do for the Open Space Committee as well. But nonetheless, you will be both incredible assets to LUAC, and we appreciate your service. Next on our agenda, we have the Open Space Committee. It's 1 3-year term. We have one candidate, Ms. Peck. Ms. Peck was unable to attend tonight. She advised us in advance that that was the case. However, I'm more than happy to speak on her behalf as someone who serves with her on the Open Space Committee. She is diligent, she is attentive, she is a ball of energy, and an incredible asset to that community and to our community as a whole. So I have no problem making her a nomination for her. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? That is unanimous as well. Remind all people again who get appointed to please make sure they get sworn in. Next up, we have the Cedarville Steering Committee. We have 2 3-year terms and 1 1-year term. First up, we have Ms. Dolliver Ash.
Hi, thank you for having me up. My name is Megan Dolliver Ash. I live at 1610 State Road. I've lived there for 12 years now. I have been raising 3 kids. They all attend Plymouth Public Schools in the area, 11, 6, and 3. So very busy, but I find I deeply align with the major goals presented in the master plan of Cedarville, including the core goals of improvements to safe vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle access, sense of identity, common themes that could create a sense of community, improved access to recreational opportunities for populations served by Cedarville, and good stewardship of the land for future generations. So I'm concerned about some of the sustainability of recent developments, and I'd like to work towards balancing sustainable development that does not degrade the environment for our children and our children's children. I like to think of the future, like what happens, what's this land going to look like in 50 years, when my grandchildren are inheriting it, and I want it to be sustainable for them. I want the water to be drinkable. We've already experienced several supply chain bottlenecks. Our local resources matter. Protecting our land matters, protecting its fertility, protecting our clean water. All of those things are so important to me. Things like the population density on State Road and speed limits, like there are just so many things that could be done to support a safer community. And so I've just had a lot of areas where I could see possible improvements, and a lot of it is already in here. It just haven't seen that much, change in the environment. Like for example, our downtown area for the past, 10 years, we've been talking about getting lights down there, blinking lights, a crosswalk that has lights, anything, and nothing's happened there. So And so, to my experience, I am a special educator. I have my master's in special ed, and I am a applied behavior analysis. Applied behavior analyst. So I've worked with data sets to determine future outcomes, both in individual students and throughout schools. So I've used different software to train staff members in schools to use to make decisions based on the data they collect from the entire school population. So I am good at taking everything into consideration, doing deep dive research into new information, and then learning it well enough to teach to others. And that's something I've been doing throughout my career. That's about it.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of the board? Mr. Rand?
Don't go away.
Sorry,
That's,
sneaking out.
so, after years of kind of working in the shadows, the Cedarville Steering Committee seems now to be in the thick of things,
Yes.
in the heated thick of things. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for what is likely to be some long nights and heated conversations?
I am ready for that, and I already have some opinions based on that presentation that we just saw. The industrial area of Cedarville, he had said, most of the steering committees are just concerned about their downtown area and fixing up their downtown area. The industrial park near Cedarville is about half a mile away from our downtown area. So removing the say of the local people who live nearby is not necessarily something that, that would need a lot of discussion to just bypass the community's input on things like that.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Smith?
Question, in case I missed it, have you attended the steering committee meetings in Cedarville?
I have not, no. No, and I do have 3 children, and unfortunately, I have not. That is something I intended to do before coming here. I have read the minutes, but no, like I said, I saw that there was an opportunity opened up, and I thought I would give it a shot.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Grandy?
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Just so you know, I spent many years on the Cedarville Steering Committee and also as its chair.
Excellent.
And the Cedarville Steering Committee has been working on trying to get lights and traffic improvements on State Road for longer than 10 years.
Yeah.
So with the development that happened along Headers Pond Road, the town received $2 million in cash to create a study and work on getting the traffic situation, as far as traffic is concerned, corrected down there in Cedarville.
Yeah,
So there's not, we look to protect the land, but we also look for safety and traffic improvements
absolutely.
and a little bit of development in that area as well.
Yeah, a little care and love and care down there would be
That's
nice.
right.
The sidewalks could be weeded. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could make it a little prettier.
If you take a right after the Little Red Schoolhouse, there's a sidewalk that goes up that road. Mr. Lee is the reason why that sidewalk went into place. You don't know who that is, but he was a Cedarville Steering Committee member for many, many years.
Nice.
So
I appreciate
I
all the work you've
appreciate what
done.
you're doing and what you're going to be doing, and thank you
And I
very
don't mean
much.
to walk in and say, oh, I have all these things. I know that you guys have been working really hard for a long time on all of these concerns. It's very clear from the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up, is that? Sorry. Not done yet. So I have a question. What is your understanding as to the role of the steering committee? And and so for all you people coming up, you're going to get that same question.
Don't copy me. You have to have a completely different answer. To consider the potential for development, the direction of the community, the physical community, I imagine some cultural elements of the community as well. Planning for the future in general, advising, I'm assuming other boards in decisions that have relevance to Cedarville. Discussing the possibility, like the potential, the upsides and downsides, researching those things ahead of time. Have I missed anything? Am I missing a big thing?
No, I'm asking what your understanding is.
That's my understanding, I would
Okay.
say. Yeah, generally, that would be my understanding.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for us for now. Next up, we have Mr. Costello.
You'll have to forgive me, I had a stroke, so I don't talk too well. Anyway, I'm here. To answer Steve's question, the steering committee does not have a vote. We just pass along the information. We give the citizens a chance to come out and hear what's going on in the community and what's going on with the planning board and the rest of the town. Excuse me. This is tough for me.
No, take your time. Do what you need to do.
But at any rate, that's answering the question, I think. We really don't have a vote, but we passed along the information, and we here give people a chance to get up and speak their piece. I'm a former sound man, so I set up microphones whenever I can, so people can be heard. Other than that, I'll keep it short. I was the deputy director of the integrity unit for Mass Health for the whole state. And I'm used to testifying in court, and this really spoken me having to do with this. But at any rate, I've been on the steering committee for 3 years, I think now, but I spent 54 nights in Spalding Hospital, and I'm here talking about it, so that's not too bad. I wouldn't have known this meeting, too important. Anyway, that's my piece, and I'll stay for questions. I know that somebody will probably have one too.
Thank you very much.
welcome.
Questions from members of the board? Mr. Grandy?
All right, thank you.
Sir, I've attended quite a few of the meetings where you were there recording, and you did a fantastic job, and thank you for coming back out again. Thank you very much.
Very good. At this point, I'm going to call for nominations. And again, we have 2 3-year terms and 1 1-year term. So I'll call for a nomination and ask if somebody wants to make a nomination. If so, for which term? For Ms. Ash?
I will nominate Ms. Ash for a 3-year term.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second. Then do I have a nomination for Mr. Costello
So made,
for a
3-year term.
3-year term?
Second?
And a second as well? Okay. So I will now call for the vote for Ms. Ash. All in favor? Unanimous. For Mr. Costello? Also unanimous. Thank you both. Your service is greatly appreciated. Ms. Ash, appreciate your spending some time away from your children to do this. I know that that is a sacrifice in and of itself. Mr. Costello, your willingness to come back from a challenging situation to continue to serve on that committee is more than admirable, and we all greatly appreciate it. So thank you both. Again, make sure you get sworn in. Next this evening, we have the Manomet Village Steering Committee, and we have 2 3-year terms available. First up this evening, we have Ms. Oscar.
Hello,
Good evening.
can you hear me?
We can.
My name's Joanne Oscar, Cottontail Trail Precinct 14. Thank you for considering my application. I've lived in Manomet for 20 years and have raised 2 daughters here, now 12 and 17, and I would like to help preserve and improve the village. And my understanding of the duties of the steering committee His role is to help implement the Manomet Village Master Plan and advocate for the needs and priorities of the village. If appointed, one area I would be especially interested in working on is helping to monitor, protect, and enhance Fresh Pond Park and the adjacent Wampanoag Cemetery site, which the master plan currently identifies as important, but not currently protected. It's currently unprotected community resource. The ponds, open spaces, and coastal resources of Manomet are central to the character of the village. I would welcome the opportunity to support efforts that preserve these spaces, improve stewardship and access where appropriate, and ensure they remain protected for future generations while respecting their cultural and historical significance.
Very good. Thank you. Questions from the board?
Is there any particular issue that has motivated you to step forward and seek this position?
Not really. I've just become more, I've learned more about local politics recently, and so just feel I should get more involved now that I have more time, that my kids are a little bit older.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
I've asked this of people who haven't been on the board before. Have you attended meetings?
Yes, I have.
And how many, or just give us a sense of that?
3, I think, just this past year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Donaldson?
All right, so as a fellow person that lives in Manomet, how do you feel in regards to some of the other recreational areas that may need some attention or some thought process to?
How do I feel about them?
Yes, or
I mean, I
do
think
you
there's
have
lots
a
of-
recommendation or thoughts or anything else?
Not recommendations at this time. I think there's a lot of areas that could use improvement. There's a lot of playgrounds that are just kind of have nothing going on. They don't have any like curb appeal or anything that could probably use some help as well in the village.
Thank you.
So what would your process be if, assuming the planning board refers a matter for a proposed development for consideration for assessment by the steering committee? What would your process be for reviewing something like that? How would you like to see that done?
What would I like to see? I guess I would just have to learn about what they want to do and the process, which, you have to implement it. I'm not sure how these things work too much, but I guess it would be a learning process.
Okay, thank you. That's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Ms. Kelly.
Good evening, gentlemen. Jeanette Kelly, 25 Cottontail Trail in Manomet. I've served on the committee for the past 9 years, and I'd like to continue to serve, please. I've really enjoyed it, so I'd like to start executing the next master plan. Any questions? I can't see, I'm not good at public speaking, so I'll just tell you right up front.
Fair enough. Questions?
So since you've been on 9 years, what's the toughest issue that's come before you and how was it resolved?
Well, I've been trying to work on getting a crosswalk down by Marshland on 3A for the past 5 years, and I'm still continuing badgering the town engineer. So that's been a problem. And also getting the traffic to slow down on Bartlett Road. Been trying to work on that. Actually on Bartlett Pond, or Fresh Pond Circle, Fresh Pond, getting that cleaned up, getting a gate up. We actually accomplished that for the past year. So that's helped curb some drug dealing and kids partying down by the playground. So
Thank you.
that's what I've experienced. So
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Next up is Ms. Perkins. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Perkins has indicated she is unable to attend. She has. Oh, you are? Is that? Ms. Perkins?
Looks like that's Miss Duncan.
No, that's
Sorry.
Ms. Duncan. Okay, no, that's fine. No, Ms. Duncan comes up later. Ms. Melillo?
Hi.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for having me. So I am a Manomet Townie. I went to Indian Brook, but with the redistricting, I would be a Manomet kid. I went to PCIS, I went to Plymouth South High School. I went away for college and lived elsewhere, came back here to raise my family, and my daughter is currently at Manomet Elementary. I am very concerned about the future of Plymouth. I want the best for it. I am seeing a lot of change, and I want to be part of it. I looked at the master plan. There's a lot that I would like to have input on, whether it's the goal to improve the village greens or to make safe family-oriented events or engage the schools. Those are all things that I have brought to the table. I'm part of the Manomet Healing Garden, and I brought the Healing Garden and the Manomet Elementary PTO together. As a Girl Scout troop leader, I have brought the girls into the garden as well as other areas of Manomet. There's a lot that needs to happen, and I've seen some dysfunction in the board, and I want to stop that dysfunction, and I want to see it function. You have any questions?
Thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. Smith?
Same question I've been asking. Have you attended any meetings or reviewed meeting minutes?
Yes, for over a year and a half. I brought my daughter, and then I stopped bringing my daughter because they were so dysfunctional.
Thank you.
Mr. Mand?
Ms. Melillo?
Correct.
So I've been around long enough in town to remember there was a kind of effort to have a renaissance in Manomet, and it was centered around the Sims house and that area. And from an outsider, and you know, I may be naive about things, but it seems as if that effort to bring about more cohesiveness as a community in a village, and we have very few surviving villages, but Manomet seems to be holding on somehow. But how would you judge that? You seem to be disappointed in what's happened in the community, or how would you describe your?
So my aunt and a family friend were very involved in the Sims house, and I am heartbroken about what has happened. I was there the night of the steering committee when Mr. DeMeo really spoke against it. So yes, I am disappointed in certain things that are happening. Manomet is changing drastically. It is not little cottages like it was when I was growing up. It is, you know, my family will talk about how the store is closed in Manomet and you were looked down upon if you were in Manomet because you were those people that stayed there year round. What was wrong with you? And it's changed now to be a very up and coming area to live in. And we need to look at those that have stayed for generations, that need help with transportation, that need help with the pedestrian crossings, that are not being looked at by the current steering committee. For example, the steering committee is frequently meeting here at Town Hall, despite my encouragement twice at public comment to have it in Manomet, because it is a Manomet steering committee. And I encourage that because I had asked other people to come with me to the steering committee, and transportation was a difficult thing, different neighbors and such. I absolutely love the idea of Jeanette's marshlands crosswalk, if that could come into fruition. I love the idea of sidewalks on Bartlett Road. I have several members of the school committee who live on Bartlett Road who even said to me, I would gladly give up some of my land to have sidewalks for my child to walk to the Manomet Youth Center. And yet I just feel like we're spinning our wheels. Nothing's happening. We're not getting any traction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my question, what's the role of the steering committee? What's the role of the Manomet Steering Committee?
To look at the master plan, implement it, and make recommendations. Plymouth is a huge place. We need basically boots on the ground to tell you guys what's going on. I brought to the Manomet Steering Committee that the Fresh Pond bathrooms were completely broken and not usable. Nobody on the steering committee knew that until I said that at public comment. And now we have a porta potty there a year later. But I feel like right now the steering committee is not aware of what's going on, and the steering committee is supposed to be boots on the ground, letting you guys know what's going on, making those recommendations.
So how do you feel in terms of engaging the community to come to the steering committees? To be, I understand that you want it to be held in Manomet. Where in Manomet? Because I know
The library. The library is open until 9 o'clock at night.
Library.
And it has been there once or twice.
It has been. It's also been booked up, and committees
I
also.
spoke to the librarian there. She is happy to make sure that we have preference if we book it out in advance. She is happy to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Ms. Enos.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Board. Thanks for having us. My name is Laura Chokrick Enos. I live at 113 White Horse Road. I'm here tonight to express my strong commitment to serve on the Manomet Village Steering Committee. A little bit about me, I'm a registered nurse. I currently work for a consulting company for senior care right here out of Plymouth, Massachusetts. I'm a lifelong resident of Plymouth. I'm super honored to be so. 25 years ago, when I had the opportunity to purchase a home, I chose Manomet to put my long-lasting roots, and it was the best decision I ever made. I was previously honored to serve on the Manomet Village Steering Committee in 2024-2025. Last year, I wasn't able to reapply because I had some time constraints, which have now been relieved. So here I am, asking to be considered to serve once again. Because I've previously served on this committee, I not only bring the knowledge of the challenges and opportunities of Manomet, I already understand the structural and administrative process of the committee itself, and I could hit the ground running on day one. Why now? We all have been talking about how much has changed in Plymouth, specifically over the last 20 years since the last master plan. 2026 is a super exciting time because we have our new comprehensive plan charting our future together. I think that's super important to talk about that togetherness. The town is a big town, and we're super unique because of all of our villages. And the villages couldn't be more different. We're all bonded by the love of this town, but we are all completely unique. And Manomet specifically, I would say, is the most unique mix of not only the population, but the use of the land and housing that we have. According to the master plan, we've grown the most in population and housing units, yet we also have the most diverse mixed use zoning. So all that really has to be put into consideration when we're discussing the needs of our town. I do have a deep love for Manomet, number one, but I also have a deep understanding of the community's uniqueness, like I spoke about, and the local concerns. If I'm able to earn your vote this evening to become a return member of this committee, I will strive to ensure that the Manomet Master Plan is implemented to its fullest integrity by sincere collaboration with the current committee meetings members. Also, that's going to take a lot of troubleshooting, listening, and understanding, and a lot of advocating for my fellow Manomet residents. I have a passion for this village, a passion for the town, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions from the board? I think we have the information we need.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next this evening, we have Ms. Bukes.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Karen Bukes. I've been a resident of Plymouth, Manomet for 55 years, brought my children up here. I've served on many boards. I gave you my resume. I believe in giving back. I love Manomet. Just to tell you, I served on the Manomet Steering Committee many years ago. Randy Parker was the chair. And we did the master plan at that time. And I think for me, that was, sitting on that committee was the most rewarding because you're at ground level. You are interacting with your fellow citizens in Manomet. And the heart goes with that job. I love the way Alice has conducted the steering committee, and I like the members very much that are on it. They've done a lot. And I think the duty is to implement the master plan, to be the eyes and ears for the planning board, to work with the community, to help them wherever we can to understand the rules and regulations that we live by. And it would be an honor to serve again. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members of the board?
Just have a question of clarification. You served in the past, or you're not asking for renewal?
No, she's not current.
You're not current, okay.
That was years ago.
Okay, thank you.
That was one of my first things I ever did, because I believe in giving back. So when the kids got a little bit older, I started volunteering, and I think I'm coming up to my 26 years of volunteering for the town.
So what do you see as a difference from when you served before and now?
Well, when I moved here in '74, it was a sleepy, little, beautiful seaside town. If 4 cars went by the house, that was something. And today, they're right to speak about Bartlett Road. It's a racetrack. But what also concerns me, if you want a concern that I have, I've always felt White Horse Beach, what if something happens there? And a few weeks ago, there was a terrible fire. And our brave firemen managed to get down on that beach and get to that fire. I don't know if anything we can do, speaking with you and whoever is in charge of that, and I'm not even sure if it's environmentally allowed. But I worry about access for things like that to happen. And maybe we can discuss it if I'm so lucky to get on. But that's one concern I have. But I will tell you that I am very impressed with Alice Baker. She is a grand old dame that knows what she's doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Grandy.
I'm not sure the board realizes, but Karen's husband served on this board as well. So Karen knows a little bit about planning, I would assume, dealing with beloved Ken. So
Thank
just
you.
want to let the board know that, and I thank you for all your years of service to the town on many different committees.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Ms. Duncan, and I know she's on Zoom.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Duncan, and I'm going to let you unmute yourself for just a moment. Nope, Ms. Duncan, you should be able to unmute yourself now. There you go.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much for considering me for the steering committee in Manamet. My name again is Christina Duncan. I live at 77 Manamet Avenue. And we've owned our home since 2007, and we've lived here full-time for 3 years. I was born in Plymouth. I went to Plymouth Carver High School. I'm showing my age by calling it Plymouth Carver High School. And I taught swimming lessons at Fresh Pond many years ago. And I love Manamet. I've been coming here since I was a child. My best friend lived here. And I very much would like to be involved in the steering committee for many reasons. One, because I really believe that the area is just full of natural resources, the beaches, the parks, the walking paths. But what seems to be what I would love to see change, and it looks like it is part of the master plan, which is some of the other candidates have talked about, are some sidewalks and making the small commercial area a little bit more usable and walkable. I also have seen many changes occurring in Manamet, a lot of growth, which, I believe is hard to stop, but I do think if we could try to be mindful of with that growth and the speeding that occurs and a lot of issues that come up, how we can construct situations, whether it be crosswalks or things like that, to make it just a little safer for everybody. As far as my background, I think most of it's in my application that I gave you. I worked in community services. I ran a nonprofit in my early career. Then I raised my children. We lived in other states, California, Virginia, for job situations. But we chose to retire here, my husband and I, because, again, it's my hometown, and I've been coming every summer for my whole life, basically, to see my family, all of whom are in the area. I currently am a member of the League of Women Voters. I volunteer at the food bank in Plymouth. I teach ESL. And I do volunteer at the Department of Children and Family Services, the state agency, and I'm on the Churchill's Landing board. And again, I would like to get involved in the steering committee. I have read the Manamet Master Plan. I've read many of the agendas and went through a lot of the notes prior to applying, just to understand kind of what the dynamic is on the board. got a similar read to one of the other candidates, that it's a little contentious, and I don't think that there's any place for that, and I think that we're all adults and we can talk about issues and try to work together to come up with the decisions that seem right. And I actually think it's vital that community members in Manomet have a place. It's great, that it's amazing that we have this steering committee where they can come and discuss some of the issues that they're having in the community. And it's wonderful to see how many people have applied for these couple of posts. I didn't expect that at all, so I think that's really great too, because it shows that the community really cares. We're a small community, but a tight one, I hope. And oh, actually, the last thing I'd like to say is that the Sims house, I've been watching that for years, and then of course COVID and all kinds of things happened, and kept wondering, what's happening, what's happening, what's happening? And then of course recently read all about Manomet Conservation and purchasing the property. The group is amazing. I think the price was too low, but that's not even there. I think they're amazing, and I would look forward very much to working with that group and somehow making them a more visible part of the community, because they're kind of off in their corner and they're doing all this incredible work all over the world. And they're this hidden jewel, and they're now going to be in the center of our community. So I read some of the ideas they had about camps for kids and things like that, and I really look forward and hope that the steering committee will be able to have some discussions with them about what that could look like, and maybe the community could get involved, and families with children can talk about that with them. And I've also heard or read that the commercial space across the way may be possibly being purchased, and that has been underutilized for so many years, and it seems to be right for some sort of development to serve our small but thriving community.
I think you've got a lot of ideas. Let's,
Sorry.
that's okay. It's difficult because none of us want to tamp down your enthusiasm. But let's bring it to some questions from the board. Any questions from the board? So I'm just going to ask my question then. What's your understanding as to the role and processes of the steering committee?
My understanding is that our power is extremely limited, and that we really just carry, we try to follow the guidelines of the master plan and see, and allow community members to bring issues forward, and then communicate about those issues and whether or not they'd be appropriate to discuss with the town powers that be, and basically whether or not they fall within the master plan. But I am wondering if the master plan is hard and fast. I mean, it's quite general, so I believe there's a lot of ways to, whatever issues come up, we could say, oh, well, that kind of falls under this, but I just don't know that. But I do understand that the role is really a communication back to the town of Plymouth to explain kind of what the issues are and how maybe they could be addressed.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go through each of the candidates. So we're going to ask for a nomination and a second for each. This instance, nobody is restricted. You could nominate or second as many as you'd like. Do I have a nomination for Ms. Oscar?
Could Miss Oscar raise her hand? Who's your candidate? There's so many names. All right, thank you. I forgot. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no nomination, we'll move on. Nomination for Ms. Kelly?
I'll nominate Ms. Kelly.
I have a nomination for Ms. Kelly. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. Ms. Perkins, who was unable to attend, do I have a nomination? Seeing none, move on. Ms. Melillo, do I have a nomination?
I nominate Ms. Melillo.
Second.
And I have a second. For Ms. Enos, do I have a nomination? I will nominate Ms. Enos,
Second.
and I have a second. For Ms. Bukes,
No, I'll nominate Ms. Bukes.
I have a nomination for Ms. Bukes. Do I have a second? I'll make the second. For Ms. Duncan, do I have a nomination for Ms. Duncan?
Nominate Ms. Duncan.
I have a nomination for Ms. Duncan,
I second.
and I have a second. Okay. So, committee members, you have 2 votes. So first up with a nomination and a second is Ms. Kelly. All in favor of Ms. Kelly? I have 3. I have, for Ms. Kelly, I have Mr. Grandy, Mr. Smith, and myself. For Ms. Melillo, I have Mr. Mand and Mr. Donaldson. For Ms. Enos, I have Mr. Donaldson and myself. For Ms. Bukes, I have Mr. Grandy. And for Ms. Duncan, I have Mr. Mand. Oh, and sorry, and Mr. Smith. Okay, so at this point, we have one candidate that's received a majority of the board, and that's Ms. Kelly. So Ms. Kelly is reappointed. Per our policy, we can re-vote again now on the remaining candidates, which are Ms. Melillo, Ms. Enos, Ms. Bukes, and Ms. Duncan. So I will call for a revote on Ms. Melillo. The same 2. For Ms. Enos, just myself. For Ms. Bukes, it is Mr. Grandy. And for Ms. Duncan. Okay. We have 4 members for Ms. Duncan, so Ms. Duncan is appointed.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Kelly, Ms. Duncan, please again, make sure you get sworn in. Thank you, everyone else, for coming out, and please, again, consider applying as for this in the future, for other positions in the future. Everyone's ideas are great, and everyone's enthusiasm is really appreciated.
I wish I could have voted for you all, but I'm going to vote for 2.
Next, this evening, we have the North Plymouth Steering Committee, and we have 2 3-year terms. First candidate we have is Ms. Tapscott. Is Ms. Tapscott here or on Zoom?
Ms. Papscott, if you are on Zoom, please raise your hand virtually or turn your camera on.
I don't see anyone. Next, we have Mr. Pinto, and I do know Mr. Pinto had said he was going to be available by Zoom.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. That's all right. We appreciate your making the effort to come by Zoom.
Yeah, I had another meeting out here tonight in North Plymouth, so it's a busy night. So those who don't know me, my name's Tom Pinto. Born and raised in Plymouth. I'm a third generation North Plymouthian. I live on 14 Cooper Street in the house my grandfather built, who is the first generation North Plymouthian, first Pinto born in America. And I also in my house have my two boys who are now fourth generation North Plymouthans. I'm a precinct 2 member for about 10 years. I'm currently just got elected the vice chair. We have a great group over at precinct 2. I'm the president of the Young America Clubs, whose basement you can see me at right now. I feel like I wouldn't be a good North Plymouth steering committee member if I didn't throw out a shout out to the Holy Ghost, which is always is the third Sunday of July. So this year it's July 19th. So please join the Holy Ghost. It's a great neighborhood activity. My son actually last year had the honor of being the prince of the Holy Ghost. So it's a great time. So if you can all make it, please join us. Good food, good people, live auction. North Plymouth Steering Committee's been pretty busy. I think as many of you know, obviously Pulte was a hot topic this year. I think 40B in general is a hot topic. And, maybe a plan for all our committees to possibly, start talking to our state reps and trying to make some changes. It's real force feed. I mean, just the projects don't seem to end. Obviously, we have Benny's Plaza coming up. We have the empty Scarzy lot sitting there. We have the possibility of a new North Plymouth Elementary School. Obviously, a part of the master plan of North Plymouth has been strong commercial. I think, we did a great job in this committee of approving boat storage property, which doesn't put a lot on our town services, but again, gives tax funds. That's right behind advances. I look forward to the project coming up at Veterans Field as town meeting voted to start making plans for that. Overall, I've been on the North Plymouth Steering Committee for a bit. It's a great committee, good conversation. Kevin does a great job as a chair. I think all the people volunteer. I mean, it's hard to step up and donate your time, and many of us have kids, youth sports, and all that, whatnot. I would like to I'll just go right to your question. I believe our role is to look at projects, plans, and the impacts they have on our communities and moving our villages forward in regards to our master plans with our neighbors' input, and then sending those recommendations over to this committee. Open up for any questions. Again, love the community and happy to serve again on the North Plymouth Steering Committee.
Thank you very much. Questions from members of the board? Mr. Mand.
Mr. Pinto, reflecting on the Pulte development, has that changed your sense of the role or effectiveness of the committee?
I mean, I think, again, neighborhood input, again, I mean, there's a lot of passion in all those meetings. I mean, many neighbors came, again. I think it really increased the amount of members, somewhat were, a sleepy little group at some point, but again, hearing the neighborhood input, seeing the effect on it, again, Charlie Bandini, longtime legend of the North Plymouth Steering Committee, I think the famous quote he once said was, we wouldn't have to worry about build out here in North Plymouth. Because we're all built up, and here we go with all these projects. And I even forgot to say, we still even have the Cordis project that's not, that hasn't completed all its phase. So I just think the input of the neighborhood on it, and just trying to meet people who are there. And again, I think that's where I mentioned my kind of frustration with the 40B process in general, and how you can have neighbors and fight and push back for it, but it's a real uphill battle for anybody in dealing with the state. And I really, again, I think, if anything I took away from it, again, is if we can get together as these communities and talk to our state leaders who are great, like Senator Michelle and Kathy do a great job, Senator Fernandez, and again, and try to get some impact so that it's not this forced, this hostile 40B happening to us in our neighborhoods. That's kind of what I took from it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donaldson?
So I can already see you're a passionate and enthusiastic person. What other, with your passion and your enthusiasm, what do you think that you bring to the committee that you maybe felt you haven't done before? What would you do different if you were reappointed?
I mean, I don't know. I think I would continue to listen to individuals, different people's input. Again, bring my ideas. Again, it's a neighborhood that I am passionate about. Like I said, I was born and raised here, and I care deeply about what happens there. So, I'm not sure what I would change differently, but again, I would continue to bring that passion. Again, I juggle a lot with the youth sports, coaching and, coaching hockey and baseball and whatnot. But again, to be able to come back, that one Wednesday a month if needed, or, be able to jump in to have a conversation with your neighbors. And again, a member on the committee, one of my childhood friends. So it's good to just kind of work together as neighbors through this. And I would continue to, I guess, just bring the passion I have.
And when do you have your last cup of coffee?
It's been a long day, man. I've been going all night.
No, I appreciate you bringing the energy to us this time of night too. So, and I thank you for volunteering. Thank you.
And I can't control these hands. They just get moving when I get talking. So
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next we have Mr. Strassel. Not unmuted yet.
Hey, how's it going?
There we go. Good to hear from you. How are you this
Thank
evening?
you. I'm pretty well. Everyone else too?
All good here.
Awesome. Well, I guess I would just start out with saying I've lived in North Plymouth my whole life. I've had family here for generations, with even blood going back to the Mayflower, the Cushmen specifically. Currently, I'm a student. I'm leaving Bunker Hill Community College this year for UMass Boston for biochemistry and criminal justice. A big reason why I joined the steering committee initially was honestly to learn, take some time to listen to the people around me and see what was going on. The Pulte stuff is interesting. The new developments with Veterans Field and such are interesting. To enter into that question you were asking everyone else, that fella from Boston, which that presentation had a lot of great parts of it. Something I wasn't a big fan of was disregarding the input of steering committees. When a presentation is done in a steering committee, the role of the steering committee isn't to show their lack of zoning experience. It's to give input, because any industry going into your town affects you through traffic, through jobs, through quite a bit. So to think industry doesn't affect people is to say, or the people of the town, is to say industry hasn't affected every part of human history, which it has. I mean, legacy is built upon industry. So to think people's livelihoods, people's safety, people's happiness isn't going to be affected by nearby industry, and that they should have no input is silly. The whole point of those meetings, of those presentations, is a formality, because it should help weed out less serious enterprises. I mean, if an enterprise can't take 20 minutes to give a presentation, are they going to be able to maintain that industrial complex or business or what have you going on, or are they just going to build something cheap and short for their use, and then when it needs to be used for something else, it can't be. It's just a waste of space, waste of time, waste of money. So the purpose is to help give input from a civilian level, and at the same time possibly help teach and train people within the town who are probably going to be staying in the town to possibly have more input in the future, whether it's on that steering committee or elsewhere.
Great. Thank you very much. Questions from members of the board? I think we've heard what we need to hear. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Bone, and I understood Ms. Bone said that she was going to be unable to attend. Just want to verify that she's not on Zoom.
I don't believe so, but just in the event she may be, Ms. Bone, if you are here, please unmute yourself or request to be unmuted.
Yeah. Okay. Again, and she had advised in advance that she was unable to attend, so. Okay, so we've now heard from all of the candidates, so I will call for nominations and seconds. Any nomination from Ms. Tapscott? Seeing none, I'll move on. Nomination for Mr. Pinto?
You got him?
Yes, I like to.
I have a
nominate
I want that with energy, just like,
I
yeah,
have a nomination
and a second.
and a second for Mr. Strassel.
Nominate Mr. Strassel.
I have a nomination, I'll second. And for Ms. Bone? No nomination. Okay. So for Mr. Pinto, all in favor? That is unanimous. For Mr. Strassel, all in favor? That is also unanimous. Mr. Pinto, Mr. Strassel, thank you both very much. Get re-sworn in. Look forward to continuing to work with you in the North Plymouth Steering Committee. Next, we have the Plymouth Center Steering Committee. We have one 3-year term available, and we have Ms. Marshall.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for staying so late.
Yeah, it's okay. Thankfully, I'm a night owl, so not a problem. Melissa Marshall, Precinct 3. I live in 3 North Green Street. It was the Harlow house before I purchased it. I know I don't have as much competition as the Manomet Committee, but I still want to give you guys an understanding of what I want, why I want to join the committee. So, you know, I moved here in 2020. Primarily because my husband had been living in New York City, and then we got married and lived in Cambridge. I lived in Cambridge for 22 years. So when we decided to buy a house, we were looking for walkable downtown, and I was like, if I'm trading the city, I'm getting the beach. I spent my childhood at Miles Standish and Whitehorse, so I had spent a lot of time in Plymouth, so it was sort of a natural fit. My husband's from Attleboro. We, you know, have been really impressed with what we've seen happening downtown since we moved here. I know, looking back through old master plans, I know a lot of that was planned out, and I just happened to move in when it was all coming to fruition. But Brewster Gardens is beautiful. Like, when we were looking at properties, we saw the swans with their babies swimming around, and it was just stuck in my mind. And so, you know, I think it was interesting to look back at the 2004 master plan and the 2019 update and see, you know, that these were like laid out. Stevens Field recently completed. When I first moved here, I was launching my kayak out of there, and it was that old decrepit playground, and now it's beautiful again. I run through downtown every morning, so it's and the connection to the Grace Trail. So I think you've really executed on making it a walkable, beautiful downtown, and I think, you know, it sounds like with all the growth and everything that's happening in Plymouth that the role of the steering committee in helping to implement the new master plan is really going to be, the challenge is really going to be, how do we balance tourism, the historic, beautiful nature of Plymouth, the resources, the natural resources of Plymouth, which I take advantage of all the time, the cost of living for residents. So I do a lot of work in social justice, childhood equity, access to ensuring that children have access to healthcare and school. And food is really important to me. So the cost of living crisis in Massachusetts as a whole is something I've worked on in my former time in Cambridge, and would be interested in helping here. And I know, you know, Plymouth, North Plymouth and Plymouth Center are where the dense housing already is. So what can we do in those existing dense areas to help with the housing crisis and keep housing affordable? Because I chose Plymouth over Duxbury because Plymouth has people from across different economic backgrounds, and I don't want to live only with people who can afford $1 million homes. So let's try to keep Plymouth affordable.
Great, thank you very much. Questions?
So what's wrong with the downtown?
Noise pollution, and it could be more, it is pedestrian friendly-ish, but I think some speed calming measures could help go a long way to making crossing the road safer. And, you know, I think I live right, those of you who know where I live, it's right on the training green. So people really gunning it up that hill on Water Street to come onto Court Street is I have so many nights I have seen somebody almost get hit in that crosswalk right there. So something specifically at that intersection. I'd also like to see, I have a lot of friends that work in downtown Plymouth businesses, restaurants. I know the owners of Second Wind Brewery. I'd like to see permitting get easier. I know that's not really a steering committee and planning board thing, but it is something that when I come to town meetings, not town meetings, select board meetings, that's sort of something I'm always kind of keeping an eye on.
Thank you.
So have you been attending any of the Plymouth Center Steering Committee meetings?
I have not attended any of the meetings, but I did participate in all the surveys that were sent out, and I did attend the road shows that you guys were doing in 2024 and 2025, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
So at this, we're all set.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
Nope, I think we're good. Do I have a nomination?
Motion to support.
I have a nomination.
Second.
And I have a second. Okay, so I will call for a vote. All in favor? That is unanimous. Yeah, well, tonight you picked the right place to live. Where in Cambridge were you from? Okay. I was over by Observatory Hill, so that's where I came from before I moved here, so. Very good. Remaining tonight, we have the West Plymouth Steering Committee. We have 2 3-year terms, 1 1-year term, and 1 candidate. Ms. Baker. Oh, sorry, Barbara. Why did I do that again? I'm sorry. Forgive me, Judy.
Yes, I want to tell you a little bit about myself before I start. I came to Plymouth about 17 years ago, and I've been involved on the West Plymouth Steering Committee for 12 years. Prior to that, I lived in Bedford, and I was a select person for 9 years and on the planning board for 5 years. And I also worked many years for the Mass Department of Environmental Protection, and my job was to interface the agency with the public. So this is something I'm very comfortable doing, and also look for different sides of issues. We are quite diverse in West Plymouth. We have the heavy industry, we have commercial, we have multifamily, we have residential, all in a very small area. All together, all interacting with each other. And so when you consider a proposal, it's not just a zoning issue or just a development plan, it's what is the impact to people. And I think all this growth has not really favored a lot of the residents. We're trying to get caught up on that now. We were able to get sidewalks along Route 80, and now we're trying to work with the Carver Road and have some control of speed and perhaps sidewalks and other things to make it safe, because it's a very, very difficult thing. Safety is a very important issue, and since I'm very environmentally oriented, and I'm particularly concerned about the aquifer, because I have seen what has happened in other different communities. Up north, that's heavily developed, so a lot of these things have happened already, and I was happy to come to Plymouth to use whatever skills or information I have to help with the growth period. And to me, the protection of that aquifer is extremely important and needs good enforcement and needs good planning and good consideration. So that's something that's very important. Our board is very broad. We've reviewed so many projects in West Plymouth. It's very diverse. And the area is what the area is. We are not downtown with historic. We are in West Plymouth where we have high industry and many other things. And that should be completed, considered as part of the complete package for any rezoning in that area. We need to look at other people's points of view. And sometimes people get single-minded and they don't think of different things. Our role is to interface with the community in an advisory capacity to the planning board and selectmen. And we encourage people to come in, to talk with us. This is a big town. It's hard for citizens to come in and talk to boards. So we're more than happy to receive them, help where we can, refer them. And I frankly think the role of the steering committee should be expanded. So there can be more of a link between the public and the town boards that have very many things to do. I think that pretty much covers my presentation, and if, there's any questions, I'd be glad to take it.
Thank you so much. Any questions from members of the board?
Judy, I just wanted to ask you why you think it is, with all that's going on in West Plymouth, you're down 2 members. If you're appointed tonight, you're still down 2 members. Is there a difficulty in getting members on the committee?
Yes, we just lost 2 members. One because of, he moved down to Manamet. The other is because she works in Boston and it's impossible to keep up with the time. We definitely are looking for more people, and we'd really love to get some more younger people involved. Because we need that. Whenever we have an opportunity, we see something that looks good, we, suggest that they think about it, but we could use any help that we could.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Oh, I think we're all set. Thank you, Judy. At this point, do I have a nomination for Ms. Barber?
So nominate.
Second.
And second. Very good. Nomination and second. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, Judy. Look forward to working with you again through the West Plymouth Steering Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our formal agenda for this evening. Anything further from members of the board?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? This meeting of the planning board is now adjourned. Thank you all.